What's cracking, y'all? Welcome to I Am Boo. Thanks for stepping through. Got a new one here. The divine structure hidden in Superman's timeline from the YouTube channel Geek Critique. Never heard of it, but if I'm a fan of this, I'll definitely be subscribing. Let's check it out. By the way, Superman 2025, James Gunn's Superman. If you haven't seen it yet, recommend it. Definitely think it's worth the price of admission. I've seen it twice, and I really enjoyed the movie. So here we go.
With the release of James Gunn's Superman, the first film in Warner Bros.' new DCU, we get to witness not only a new era of comic book movies come to life, but the birth of a brand new fictional timeline. Well, a new timeline for most characters. More on that later. I was very curious to see how well the film would manage its internal timeline with the world around it, and I was honestly floored. This may be one of the single strongest comic book movie timelines we've ever received, and you can see clear intent from Gunn and others to shape its internal consistency and its subliminal symbolism. It doesn't just line up incredibly neatly, its structure actually means something. And once you see how deep it goes, I guarantee you'll never watch it the same way again. But it's not 100% perfect, and my first time through the film I found what I perceived to be a major plot hole. I'll touch on that later. For now, welcome to Geek Critique. My name is Dakota Lopez, everyone's third favorite fictional chronologist, and today we're reviewing the timeline of 2025.
Who's the first and second?
Superman. If you want to support this channel, the best way you can do so
Where's
is
the
by
dog,
liking,
Luther?
subscribing, and watching this video till the very end. Some corrections are in order, as this technically is not the first we've seen of this timeline, just the first time we've seen it on the big screen. As part of the DCU's Chapter 1, Gods and Monsters, essentially DC's equivalent to Marvel's Phase 1, the first true title we received in the DCU was Creature Commandos. But that's
Great show, by the way. Absolutely fantastic show. Recommend it. Recommend it. Don't sleep on it. Creature Commandos is very good.
the timeline dive for another day. If you're here to find out if Superman occurs before or after Creature Commandos, this is the wrong video. But here's the short answer. Creature Commandos occurs in late 2023 to early 2024, and Superman occurs a year later in May 2025. Superman begins by presenting us with a literal on-screen timeline, a handy guide to catch us up on the world we're about to enter, a history of how this world's new universe began in a fun little title card format.
I love the title card they did. 3. But I also read that originally this movie was going to be like more of a days in the life of Superman or a week in the life of Superman, and it was going to be like day 1, day 2, day 3. How many days? I'm not completely sure. Maybe 5, maybe 7. Not sure. But I think that was the original plan, and I guess at some point they botched that idea. I would have liked to see that, though.
3 centuries ago, the first superpowered beings, known as metahumans, appeared on Earth, ushering in a new era of gods and monsters. This is a stark difference to how we
3 years
understood the emergence
ago,
of metahumans as
Superman.
occurring in the DCEU.
3 weeks
certain
ago,
gods
3 days
and
ago.
Themyscirans existed before 3 centuries, but in the DCEU, the true emergence hadn't happened until World War I. With the new DCU, I think it's safe to assume that superpowered beings existed on Earth prior to 300 years ago, but the wording here is such that they may have made themselves known to the world 2 centuries earlier
I think I messed that up.
than in World War I. The text continues, 3 decades ago, an extraterrestrial baby was sent in a spacecraft to Earth and adopted by
Yeah, I messed that up. My bad. I'll shut my ass up.
Kansas farmers. Krypton is light years away from Earth, so I'm curious if Kal-El was found in Kansas as a baby still or as a toddler, which is how he's often depicted in films and shows. There could also be some weird time dilation at work, where Krypton may have died decades, centuries, or even millennia ago. But the gravitational relativity that Kal was encapsulated in kept him at roughly the same age as when he left.
That's
3
true.
years ago, the baby, now grown, announced himself as Superman, the most powerful metahuman of all. This is a fun one, as this is showcased in the DCU's first ever tie-in novel, Superman, Welcome to Metropolis. It's a junior novel, so the prose is meant for younger readers, but the story
I think
is
I have
intuitive
that.
enough and introduces several concepts that those who wish to explore this world more will
Do I
find
have that?
enjoyable. Green Lantern, Hawkgirl, and Mr. Terrific were already working together well before Superman got to Metropolis. Lex's experimentation and the creation of Metallo is how he discovered Superman was allergic to kryptonite. Clark joins the Daily Planet by quickly churning out articles about the whereabouts of Superman. It's a fun little read, if you're interested, but let's continue through the timeline the film presents us with. 3 weeks ago, Superman stopped the country of Baravia from invading Jarhanpur, sparking controversy around the world. I think this is fascinating because at an objective level, yes, Superman did the right thing. People were going to die and he stopped that from happening. But subjectively, his actions carry unprecedented geopolitical weight, and that's the backbone of the film's argument, a fascinating take on unchecked power. They skip what happens 3 days ago, strangely, but the 3 hours and minutes section of this countdown work hand in hand. 3 hours ago, a metahuman called the Hammer of Baravia attacked Superman in the city of Metropolis. 3 minutes ago, Superman lost a battle for the first time. They skipped the 3 months title card, but we later learned that this is when Clark and Lois first got together via the dialogue. Clark says, 3 months ago, we had our first date.
All right, see, I didn't catch, like I caught the 3 months ago, but I didn't piece it together with the fact that they skipped the 3 months. Clever. Hey, this guy's good. Geek critique, you're good, my guy. You're good.
The number 3 isn't just a stylistic choice. It's a number that's symbolically baked into Superman's DNA. He's a walking triad of concepts, colors, and creeds. His costume of red, blue, and yellow is made up of the 3 primary colors of light, making him visually coded as a being of literal and figurative light. His guiding motto, whether it be the Golden Age, truth, justice, and the American way, or the modern, truth, justice, and a better tomorrow, is a triplet of ideals he chooses to live by. He doesn't just live a double life like most heroes. He juggles a tripartite existence: Kal-El, Clark Kent, and Superman. There's the tricolon, it's a bird, it's a plane, it's Superman. Within DC Comics lore, he makes up 1 point of the
Holy Trinity
of Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. And while the Trinity isn't a doctrine expressly found in the Bible, the character is frequently framed as an allegory to part of that symbolic triad. He being the sun sent to Earth, Jor-El as the father who sends him, and the yellow sun works as a kind of cosmic Holy Spirit that empowers him. Gunn's decision to measure time in 3s is anything but arbitrary. It evokes a sense of divine order, and it reinforces that Superman's arrival wasn't an accident. It was destined. But 3 isn't the only number Gunn infused in the timeline to create cohesion and purpose. Notice that there are exactly 7 instances throughout the film specifically denoting measurements of time in 3s. The number 7 is perhaps the most symbolically weighted number in all of human culture, being linked with divine order, completion, and balance. Without going too deep into symbolism and numerology, let's focus in on how nearly every human alive revolves around the number 7 in one simple way. It's a number that guides us day in and day out. Why? Because we count our weeks in groups of 7 days and live our lives according to whichever day of the week it is. And guess what else takes place over a period of 7 days? You guessed it, Superman. When I mentioned earlier,
there was definitely some truth to what I had read. It wasn't just a rumor. So, yeah, okay.
On in the video that this was one of the strongest timelines ever crafted for a comic book movie, I really meant that. There is a clear delineation for each day that you can follow throughout the course of the 7-day week, and it's all stitched together with brief but powerful glimpses of dated Daily Planet newspaper headlines. The days of the week line up with the dates in May 2025 perfectly, meaning that not only did they have a strong inference that the film would be ready to go by summer 2025, but that the prop department was also fully clued into the specifics of this highly structured timeline. If you've been following my work in mapping timelines over the years, you'll note that it's very rare that the props created for a film or show all perfectly fit alongside the actual workable timeline for the title. This synergy is such a subtle way to showcase how real the logic of this world holds up within the boundaries it sets for itself. Compare that with Man of Steel in 2013, when Lois' camera reads November 28 in one shot, and then reads September 25 a literal second later. Getting props to line up is hard, but the 7-day structure for this film is hard-baked into each scene. Early drafts of the film featured title cards that ushered in each new day, though this was later edited out of the final film. Here's a quick rundown of how the days fall into place. Sunday, May 18th sees Superman lose a fight to the Hammer of Baravia, and after being healed by the Superman robots via a magnified beam of sunlight, he is bested again in Metropolis. But no worries, as on Monday, May 19th, Clark publishes a front-page interview with Superman about the Hammer of Baravia. Lex Luthor introduces the DOJ to his new Planet Watch initiative. After the article, Clark has dinner with Lois and allows her to interview him as Superman. Early on Tuesday, May 20th, Lex releases a kaiju in Metropolis as he hacks into the Fortress of Solitude to find dirty deets on Superman's background, and then kidnaps Krypto. Later that day, Superman and the Justice Gang fight said kaiju while Lex unveils the truth about his biological parents' message. On Wednesday, May 21st, Clark turns himself into the DOJ and Luthor's Planet Watch place him in the Pocket Dimension. They kill Malik Ali in their questioning. On Thursday, May 22nd, Lois publishes the front-page article about how the pocket dimension Superman is being held in breaks the Geneva Convention, and she then gets the help of Mr. Terrific to break him free. Clark is weakened by Metamorpho's kryptonite poisoning, so she brings him to Smallville that night so he can recover with his family. On Friday, May 23rd, Clark wakes up at the Kent farm. The dual climax of the invasion of Jarhanpur and the dimensional rift over Metropolis occurs. Both are resolved that day, and Luthor's plans are foiled. And then, on Saturday, May 24th, on the final day of the film, Jimmy Olsen's expose on Luthor makes the front page of the Daily Planet. Supergirl shows up to pick up Krypto. Clark gets to relax and revisit old memories of his time growing up with his true parents.
I think he's going to make a correlation to... maybe God resting on the seventh day. I think we'll see. The Sabbath day, if you will. We'll see.
The film begins on a Sunday, sees Superman work tirelessly for 6 days, and on the 7th day, a Saturday no less, he finally gets to rest. This is a massive flex by Gunn, one I haven't seen anyone else mention yet. The timeline of Superman mirrors the 7 creative days found in the first and second chapters of the Book of Genesis. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. It's the most important opening to a book ever written, and the most influential cosmogonic origin story ever devised. It's so influential that it's where we get the very framework of a 7-day week. And by emulating the cosmogony of Genesis, Gunn is literally ushering in a new universe, a new timeline, a new creation myth hidden in the framework of the first film in the DCU. The 6 creative days and the 7th rest day aren't meant to be understood as literal days, but periods of time, as even the very next chapter of Genesis truncates the 7 days sequence into a single day. But on that first creative day, God said, "Let there be light." Fascinatingly, it is the very first day in the film where we see the magnified light of the sun healing Superman after his battle.
Flex on him, James Gunn. Flex on him. Guys, okay. This isn't coincidence by any stretch of them. This was intentional. All right, geek critique.
And on the 7th day, after completing his work, God rested. Similarly, Superman rests on the 7th day of the film, a Saturday, the Sabbath day. This was all very, very intentional. I don't know that each day in the film can be equated to one of the creative days, but these are some obvious parallels I've noticed. I could probably go deeper, like comparing Superman's Day 6 speech on what it means to be human with the 6th creative day being the birth of humanity, but that veers too close to apophenia for my liking, so I'll leave it there. And no, even though this is part of the Gods and Monsters chapter of the DCU, this is not Gunn equating Superman to the God of the Bible. Superman literally told Lex the day prior that he's just as human and fallible as the rest of us. This is Gunn weaving the most fun...
That is the whole shtick with this Superman, that I've seen the memes and everything. This Superman focused more on the man in the name Superman, while Zack Snyder's focused more on the super than the man. I like it.
Fundamental take on the origins of the universe into the framework of his origin to the DC universe. In the beginning, there was Superman, the very first comic book superhero, the very first animated superhero cartoon.
That's a good cartoon.
Live-action superhero series,
recommend it.
The very first superhero blockbuster, the very first film in the DCEU, and now, the very first film in the DCU. Superman is the beginning of superhero myth, and Gunn is telling that to the audience on a subliminal level. And if you think that my analysis and the creation story parallels are a stretch, or that I'm seeing patterns in things that aren't intentional, all I'd ask you to do is look up the working title for the film. Just kidding, don't look it up. I'll tell you, the working title for Superman was Genesis. This isn't coincidence. This is design.
I didn't know that.
For a timeline geek like myself, this is the perfect storm. All the on-screen dates line up with the featured days of the week. It aligns perfectly with a May 2025 calendar year. It has a literal timeline at the start of the film. It's layered in numerological significance, and it evokes parallels of cosmogonic importance. Allow me just a second longer to geek out over this timeline, because now I have to poke a small hole in it. When I first decided to write this piece, most of what I've now unearthed was hidden from me. So, circling back to the plot hole I mentioned at the start of this video is a bit of a downer way to end my analysis. The film's timeline is frankly that good that I now honestly feel petty expanding on my earlier confusion when I left the theater. But alas, let's look at the events of Day 3 and the distraction Luthor plans for Superman. We're shown Luthor entering the Fortress of Solitude and hacking into the computer to find dirt on his enemy. All the while, he claims that he's created a distraction or diversion for Superman, presumably so that Superman doesn't catch them in his fortress. The distraction is the small kaiju that was let loose in the city, which later turned into a giant kaiju. My thought process was that if this really was a distraction, Lex should have still been at the fortress when Superman fought the kaiju. This narrative falls apart the moment the battle with the kaiju ends, as Luthor is already back in Metropolis and he's already given an interview that incriminates Superman based on what he found in the Fortress of Solitude. I was confused about the time compression being so blatantly truncated when...
I was too. And I was still going into this video. I'm like, what? Wait, what? It's the next day? What? I don't know.
And the rest of the film's timeline was so tight. On a second viewing, this potential plot hole was somewhat ironed out for me. It becomes clear that the baby kaiju is released around the same time that Lex enters the fortress, and that the actual battle with the kaiju later in the day was not concurrent with Lex's time in the fortress. It's a strangely worded segue between scenes because the context of the dialogue definitely implies that Superman is battling something right now, so we have some time to go through his computer. But this isn't actually what happens. Basically, Lex Luthor's line of his planting a distraction was totally unnecessary because he didn't need a distraction anyway. He was already back home and ready to drop an interview bomb to destroy Superman's character before the kaiju fight even began. Not a major plot hole, but certainly a temporal distraction.
Questionable.
Anyway, I still really enjoyed the film. What did you think of Superman, and what did you think of my analysis of its timeline? Does it change the way you see the movie? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe if you think I've earned it. Thanks, guys.
I am subscribed. Yours, I'm subscribed. Greek critique. Geek. I don't know if he's Greek or not, but geek critique. That was incredible breakdown, man. I wish I had the skills like some of these guys had. I wish I could break a movie down like that. I wish I could parse and through these things, mince them, and then put all this stuff together. We have some great minds, some creative people out there that can, put this stuff together, publish it for us so that we can ingest it. Excellent stuff there. Really. And this, I'm glad I watched this because I heard about that 7-day thing, and I remember saying, man, that would have been really cool. Day format, day 1, day 2, day 3. I would have liked that. And I don't know what the decision was behind scrapping that idea. Now I know with absolute certainty that's what it was. I tell you, these directors, they are so detail oriented, and there is so, not just James Gunn, but a lot of movies, when things are put together the way they are, just even very simple items placed in a room the way they are, these guys are artists. Like, there is a very specific reason, and a lot of these things have deeper meaning than we're able to just at least notice at first glance at a surface level view. Like, everything is put in a very specific spot for a very specific reason, and then there's a lot of things that have deeper meaning, or how things are put together, laced together, in a particular way. And, you know, I'm not able to like break things down like this guy is and other people. So I'm glad they put this content out, because I'm like, damn, a lot of that crap went right over my head and I didn't even see it, didn't even notice it. I tell you, these directors are artists, man. I know, you know, the people that, you know, critique movies, critique directors a lot. You know, it's easy to shit on these guys and, you know, things like that when you're critiquing them. Oh, he's a shitty director, but, you know, maybe you can say that in the grand scheme of directors, but what these guys do, it's incredible, even the ones that are considered low tier. You know, I think we should, you know, think about that sometimes. Maybe I'm just being too soft. I don't know. Either way, great job here. Excellent. I like the movie. I really like the movie already. Like I said, I've seen it twice. But after watching this, definitely I have an even deeper perspective on the movie now than I did before. So thank you for that. Anyway, folks, that's all I got to say about it. Appreciate y'all for stopping in. Thanks for watching. Chime in the comment section. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, stay notified. Bada bang, bada boom. Catch you on the next one. Look up.
Keep the change, you filthy animal.